Now, because we record this show on a Thursday, and then typically all the biggest things happen immediately when we're done, can we just say Elon Musk gets arrested, or should we say doesn't get arrested? Because that's kind of where we're at right now. Just to recap, if you guys are totally unfamiliar, the Fremont factory where Tesla makes its cars in California reopens despite the Alameda County health officer saying, like Dikembe, like not in my house. And so this Elon kind of tweeted back, like, I don't care. We're going to do it anyways. And I'm going to be on the line. If anyone gets arrested, just make sure it's me. Which I'm not sure that's how it works, really. Like a whole bunch of people commit a crime and it's like, hey, no, just take me. Like, well, what about, okay. But they're open, making
I volunteer
cars.
in tribute.
Right, yeah. Not quite sure how that works. They're open. There's been so much back and forth on this that guaranteed by the time people are listening to this, the day later, there will be, like I said, Elon's either arrested or not. But Donald Trump got in on it, saying that they need to open it. Elon had this whole rant about we're moving to either Texas or Nevada. There's all kinds of stuff happening here. It's really kind of a fluid situation. But apparently the factory is open and making cars. There's even videos of cars leaving the facility. I hope that one of those might be my new Model Y, but we'll, fingers crossed, everyone. But yeah, so they're doing their thing. Apparently, now, part of the interesting bit here is like, if all you took this for were the face value tweets from Elon, which is totally reasonable for, not everyone to dig deeper, you might think that this is just a billionaire crybaby wanting to make more money and be greedy, and totally understandable if that's how people think of it. But did you guys see Tesla actually published a 40-page, not document, but like manual that they had created for all of their employees to come back to work safely? Yeah, so
of course we don't hear about that.
Right, exactly. So while this has been going on, Tesla actually had been working with their safety officer, I forget her name, to develop a plan on how to do it. And then you're seeing workers actually show videos of working at the factory with all the new safety measures. So they put in like barriers between certain stations where people would otherwise come in contact and they didn't necessarily need to. The shuttles that they have to come to and fro are to and fro. Look at me. Have social distancing stuff. They have masks. They have like. I was really shocked when I saw this because it was like, yeah, my first impression was like, oh man, this is not going to look good. You're just like some billionaire trying to make money. But then Tesla drops this like 40-page document with all these details. You're like, oh crap, like they really have been thinking about this. And so here they are. They're making cars. The latest I saw was that the Alameda County is like hopeful that they're allowed to reopen next week. And then I saw another thing saying, oh, but because they're already open, they need to stop production, blah, blah, blah. They're not going to stop production. There's no way that train is stopping. If Elon gets arrested, it will, in my opinion, do nothing but make him look like a hero here. And it's just, which is not at all, I'm sure, what the people doing the arresting want. So holy crap, this is beyond the typical level of Elon outrage I think we've seen in a long time.
But can I say that there's something, I don't know, isn't there a little controversy that if they open back up, then the state does not have to pay unemployment because now all of a sudden it's like, hey, your job's available, right?
Right.
I mean, so isn't that kind of, so I know that like people want to get back to work, but at the same time, like, isn't the choice a little bit, I mean, it's not exactly black and white like this, but isn't the choice a little bit come back to work, potentially endangering yourself and your family, or, or don't
lose your job
and lose your job. Like,
yeah, no, I've thought about that for a while too, because I know Elon said it multiple times. No one that doesn't want to leave their house should be compelled to do so. Now, that word compelled, I think, is an interesting one because you could interpret that in a lot of ways. Like it could be gun to your head, compelled, or it could be you're going to lose your job if you don't leave, which I would argue is compelling, especially to a big chunk of factory workers who are not on the billionaire end of the economic spectrum. So yeah, like if your business opens and now you either have to go to work or get fired, I would say that's a pretty compelling argument for you to go to work, even if you, let's say, have underlying health issues or are of the demographics that are the worst hit by this. So yeah, it's not black and white like you're saying. I think that there's so much going on here, but the it's a really interesting argument, I guess is the way to look at it. The fact that the state, like this is my perspective, the fact that the state says it's okay for essential businesses and this type of infrastructure being considered an essential business federally, I think gives them a pretty strong grounds to say we should have never even closed. Because there are many other manufacturing facilities that have remained open. Now, granted, the big other automakers in the country are not open, and they are opening on, I believe it was the 18th was the last date I saw. So what is that, Monday or early next week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because of that, and a big reason there is not necessarily because they wanted to shut down. See, I think sometimes people misconstrue capitalism for altruism here. We're like, oh, they shut down because it's the right thing to do. No, definitely not. It's the union of the auto workers that said we are not coming to work. This is why you shut down. If you could have remained open and a few more people died, but we would have made more profit, I guarantee you 100% of those businesses would have made that choice. Like very, very seldomly, in my view, and maybe this is a cynical view of these things, but does a company act in their humans' best interest versus their bottom line's best interest? So what's Tesla doing here? I don't know. But they're open. Cars are coming out. I keep calling, asking for a Model Y, but I haven't heard anything. So what's your guys' take on this whole bit?
And this is one of those things where I don't have it in front of me, so I probably shouldn't say anything. But I thought I saw that they did work out some kind of deal with the county. Like this morning, they worked something out to go ahead and open back up. And maybe it was because they had that 40-page document and were taking the precautions that they were and everything. I am not going to back down from saying I don't like the rhetoric he's been using. All right, let me just make that clear. But there's the difference between opening up like a warehouse or a factory as opposed to a place where the public is going in and out of, like a restaurant or something. Because there's only a set number of people that are going in to the factory or going into the warehouse. And where I come down on this is like, it's all about testing. It's still about testing, and somehow we seem to keep missing that piece of it. Like, okay, back when I worked at my corporate job, once a year, the insurance company would send people from, was it Quest Diagnostics, to come in and draw blood from all of us so that they could run blood tests to determine how much they could spend on whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's all above my head. But they were like coming in and doing blood draws on us. And I'm like, if they can do that, why can't they come in and test people on a weekly or biweekly basis and just make sure, okay, yeah, you're clean, come on in, right. or you tested positive, so let's trace who you've been in contact with, right. And you go quarantine now, like there are ways we can do this with adequate testing, and where are the tests? Well, and that's like we're still waiting for those.
That's the biggest thing, is that whatever we're doing is going to be just totally shooting in the dark. If we don't have the test, either we're overreacting or we're underreacting, and the odds of us nailing this perfectly, like how we're going to reopen the world, is only going to be viable if we have proper testing. Because I guarantee, I'm starting to realize, like I had some friends that I was actually with in New York City in November, and the group of people I was with, the day I left, all of them got sick, really sick. Like this is right the very last week of November, with the exact same symptoms. 2 of them now tested positive for antibodies, and all of those people went to the hospital even. That's how sick they were. Like all of them, like this whole group of 10 people. I didn't get sick, but I was in contact with them the whole time. Mm-hmm. So this might have been, and so they came down positive. This could be a thing that has been way more prevalent than we realize. We're just now seeing it pop up in tests. We're just now seeing the fact that we don't have testing is definitely the biggest problem. Only then can we make educated
testing
guesses.
Is happening. though. I mean, I don't know about in Iowa, but I know in LA County, for example, anyone that lives there can go get a free test. And there's like several sites. You just drive up, you do it in your car, that kind of a thing. So it's coming.
Yeah.
But are they working with businesses? I mean, like actually having, giving businesses and
I don't
office
know.
buildings.
I don't know specifically about that, but I know like in the Tesla plan, their what's it called, return to work playbook, they did talk about temperature testing. So everyone has to get their temperature checked when they get on the bus and all those kind of things. Because otherwise, I mean, it'd be kind of insane. Imagine if you have to put 50 people on this bus and it takes 10 to 15 minutes for every single test. Like, dude, you're going to be waiting there for hours just to get a tiny fraction of people. But they are doing those kind of things, or they say they're doing them. So, yeah, there are ways to do this.
But they might could rotate out, like do 10% or 10% a day, like 10% of people get, randomly called in to do a test or whatever. And that happens once a
to
month
kind
or
of detect an outbreak and those kind of things.
Yeah.
I would also hope that they would do something like for sick leave, that they would kind of make it just unlimited right now. So look, if you come back to work, thank you for what you're doing. We think it's the right thing to do, all yada, yada. And then, you got sick while here. Well, first off, yes, we're going to get you a legit COVID test immediately. And then if you are sick and need this, we're going to cover all the expenses in your pay. So, because clearly we were the ones that compelled you to come to work. You probably weren't just, banging on the gate, waiting to get in. So it's our fault essentially. So let's do what's right in that regard.
Well, some people might be banging on the gate to get in so they can feed their families, though, is the thing.
Yeah, fair. But I just mean, they should take care of their people if they get sick during those times.
Right.
Well, and we were going to have to open up eventually. I mean, this is a process that's going to be going on for a while. And in fact, if I can share my screen, I just saw this yesterday. Not exactly something we want to hear, but the WHO was saying that apparently there's a possibility that COVID-19 may never go away.
Right.
This might have actually become endemic, kind of like HIV at this point. And this is just something we're just going to have to manage going forward. Like, we may never actually achieve herd immunity. We may never actually get... I'm not trying to be doom and gloom here or anything. It's just this might not be a thing that just lasts for about a year and then we get a vaccine and everything's fine. This might just be a part of our reality going forward. Weird. And it's something we're going to have to work around.
Like influenza, like the regular flu.
Except way more deadly. So, yay.
Well, I think that's the interesting question. I really think that's the interesting bit. And I know Elon says himself in the Joe Rogan podcast that I'm not sure he's completely informed about.
Or qualified.
Where he was saying if you had COVID and they got hit by a bus, they would list you as a COVID death, those kind of things. I don't think he's entirely wrong in questioning the stats and how they're collected. And when you have financial incentives put in front of people, it is extremely reasonable to assume people will use that to do things that aren't right in their own best interest. Totally, like that's not opinion. That's just how humans are. But Joe, I think you shared it with me. There was a really interesting article, I think, about how even influenza is counted. And we'll say 50,000 and 60,000 people die a year in the U.S. from the flu. But in reality, no one dies from the actual flu. It's the flu made other symptoms worse. Yeah. It may have caused those symptoms, and it may be a significant driver of those symptoms, but the flu itself didn't necessarily kill you. Pneumonia killed you, or you already had some respiratory, like my mom, when she passed, she had COPD. So, I mean, when she got lung cancer on top of that, it was like, oh yeah, that's it. She already had an extremely bad respiratory issue. Now this other thing came in and boom, that's it. So the flu is counted in the same way. What's right and what's wrong there? I mean, I guess to your guys' point about the tests, I think what you're saying is we need the tests equal, in my eyes, data to help make informed decisions. And so really, like, the number of deaths needs to be much more accurately counted to see the mortality rate.
Everything needs to be accurately counted. The infection rate,
that's what I mean. Yeah, this whole thing is
all data. That's all we need is we should be investing just a ton into data just so we make the informed decisions. That's all it is.
Well, of course, because we are us, we have to fall into two camps, either open or closed.
Yeah.
When actually you could open smartly and do things the right way. And I'm not saying that Tesla is doing it the right way. I really don't know. I haven't seen this document or anything. But yeah, there's a middle ground where we might. Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Well, I'm actually really proud. For instance, my brother-in-law owns a Ninja Gym. I think I've talked about him on the show, and my friend Jacob does too. They co-own this gym, and I'm really proud of their decision to reopen because they have the option on Friday to reopen at 50% capacity, which for a Ninja Gym is 50 screaming kids that have no sense of how to not literally run into each other and do all this stuff. And they decided that's not reasonable for us. We don't feel like that's the best interest of our employees and of us and of our patrons. So what they're doing is they're going to be doing 10 people for the foreseeable future by appointment only, and doing like station wipe downs every single time, and like isolated areas just for now. I think that's a good, safe, like you don't have to be closed or like floodgates open. I feel like they made a nice plan of like what works for us and our size of gym, for the amount of equipment we have, and for, you know, getting people in here to be able to at least utilize some of it, but doing it in what I think is a nice, safe, conservative, in between way. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I mean, and that's where California, what we're doing is that phased reopening kind of a thing. Like I posted a photo of me and my family at the beach the other day, and people kind of jumped on me about it. But the thing people don't realize is like our beach plan is, I think I maybe mentioned it before, it's called Keep It Moving, to where you don't stop and sit on the beach and like have a party. You just keep going. And in doing so, you're literally out in this giant space. Like it's not very, like the risk is extremely low. And so, yeah, I think, I don't know, like our mayor here in San Diego has been emailing the governor because they put out this plan to say, okay, to reopen to the next phase, you have to meet certain metrics, which apparently are, from their perspective, kind of impossible to meet, which again leads to fudging of the numbers. Because if I have a financial and economic incentive to tell you, oh yeah, nobody has it, we're good, then right, I'm going to do that, right? Versus let's just be open and honest about it and allow things to move and kind of monitor the situation. So yeah, the thing I'm kind of curious, and maybe this goes a little bit into tinfoil hat category, is the contact tracing apps. Have you seen these?
I mean, I've heard about them. I don't know much about them.
The what?
So, okay. So one of my good friends who's a really like one of the world's best security experts, his name's Troy Hunt. He's down in Australia, and they just implemented something, I forget what it's called, like Corona Safe or something like that. And what they do is they actually track who you come into contact with. And so if someone ever is found to have COVID, they can go back and see who else potentially has it and all those kind of things.
South Korea did that because they traced a single patient outbreak to 7,500 people using an app like that.
Yeah, and the whole irony to me is I'm like, yeah, the NSA already has all this data. Why do we need to and it's funny, like legit, I don't like it's mind blowing to me, like. Yeah, the Edward Snowden thing. Remember this biggest scandal in like cyber U.S. history? Remember that? It's like we completely forgot, and like we just don't believe it. They're like, oh, the government needs you to install this app to do this content. I'm like, bull. They already have all this data. Yeah. They could literally run a query today and figure it all out. Like, that's no.
Exactly what my dad said the other day. I was talking to him, and you know, he's not a conspiracy theorist, but like he pulled a little bit of tinfoil hat on and goes, well, this sounds pretty convenient. Like they're now going to get all of our data and be able to track us anywhere we go because they can say it's for the coronavirus. I'm like, Dad, they can literally already do that. It's like, not the government. The company's going to, I'm like, no, definitely the government. Like this is, you don't need a fancy new app to do this.
And that's the deal, is like that it's not a tinfoil hat thing. We have documents. Obama it's not like some made up thing, you know. That's the irony in that whole situation, is like it's already there. They've already got it. Why do you need us to do anything? Just use the tools already at your disposal.
On one hand, I'm like, if we have this technology to be able to literally trace, like somebody came down positive, we can literally find out every single person they talk to. We can, we can lock it down. We can keep this thing in place. And it's like, yes, we have this technology to, at just the right time for a global pandemic. We need to use it. But then the idea of actually using it is like, ugh, that's sketch,
Right.
And so there's this, I'm of two minds about it, but that's true of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I feel like I am glad that at least this is making a lot of people reflect on. I'm going to go ahead and say it's like the polarizing effect of where everything is a this or that.
Yeah.
Like I'm hoping that maybe, I still am way too optimistic about it, but the idea that maybe people will start to realize that there are like in between choices, and that I don't know, maybe that's
Tim has hope for humanity. That's adorable.
That's so cute.
Hey, thanks for checking us out, guys. I hope you enjoyed this clip from our podcast.
We do a weekly show here on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe to Our Ludicrous Future, where we discuss all the things that are going to make our future totally ludicrous.
You can join us here on YouTube or at any of your favorite podcast places. Plus, if you want to get some behind-the-scenes stuff and join a cool community, you can help support the channel at patreon.com. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys.